Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for the introduction. My name is Michelle James. I am Vice President at CTIA. We are going to talk about something very revolutionary today, voice calling. Yes, as we love our acronyms in the wireless and telecom industry, branded calling ID, as we affectionately call BCID, we want to talk about how this industry-led solution is helping to restore trust in voice calls. So it's kind of exciting because we're like 1 year past launch. It's basically the birthday of BCID, so right. Happy birthday. I won't make you sing today, that's okay. But by way of show of hands, how many of you actually answer a call that you don't know who the caller is? Pretty much nobody, right? Oh, okay, you're the two people. Good for you. So basically, that's what BCID is really meant to help solve for. It is a one-stop, what we've addressed as an industry is a one-stop, open, transparent, standards-based, industry-led network approach to restoring trust in voice calls with branded calling. We've designed this to help restore trust for consumers. In many cases, want to be receiving certain calls and want to know who's calling them as they receive that call. This is a huge value to enterprises who are trying to reach their consumers legitimately. We've built this, it was years, I mean, it's our 1 year anniversary, our 1 year birthday, but it was, another four years before that, before it came to life. But basically, this was built on industry technical collaboration, which was not for the faint of heart, I might add. This is not a proprietary solution. This is a solution that's meant to be available to all who are delivering services for branded calling and various roles that they might play across the ecosystem. And we'll talk a little bit about the ecosystem and what comprises that competitive ecosystem today. And we call those basically BCID authorized partners. So just to give you a little bit of numbers, where have we been in the last year? Live production network calls have reached close to 19 million. Originated stir-shaken calls generated for 105 different brands reaching their customers, and that's just in the last year. Within those, 3 million calls were delivered with confirmed, trusted RCD display. There are many companies across our ecosystem that are finding ways to utilize this service to continue to increase those numbers. The ecosystem is made up with various actors that participate as part of the BCID authorized partner ecosystem, which are 44 today, and this number also continues to grow with participating agents across the ecosystem, 44 originating service providers, 15 signing agents, 16 onboarding agents, 13 vetting agents, and it continues to grow, as I said. To say the least, it takes a village to deliver this with integrity. Right. So we'll talk a little bit about that today. So very much like when I asked the question today on those that are actually answering calls from unknown callers, the research continues to tell us, even as of recent months ago, 80% of calls continue to go unanswered. So this is the problem, really, that we're trying to solve, and this is what we're going to talk a little bit about today. So I have with me two people that have been with us since the very beginning. Melissa Blassingame with Twilio, whose company plays various roles as described across the ecosystem, and Doug Ranalli at Gated Networks, who is a really important partner vendor of CTIA, who has really helped us establish the platform and the APIs that help make this work relative to making sure that we are able to deliver trusted data across the platform. So Doug, we're going to start with you and deep dive a little bit in the key role relative to what makes, I know BCID, or really rather branded calling, is a hot topic across the marketplace, but what really makes BCID different in terms of what we've built together as an industry.
Okay, great. Michelle, thank you. All right, in order to understand BCID, I want to put it in context with what came before BCID. So all of this started about 5 years ago. Approximately 5 years ago, the carriers that serve the consumer, right? Think AT&T, Mobility, Verizon, T-Mobile. They've got an obvious problem. They want to deliver a great service to their customers. Those customers benefit greatly by receiving verified identity. But if you're a carrier, you can't afford to present verified identity unless you're absolutely sure it's verified in its quality, right? Otherwise, you're doing the worst thing possible. You're presenting a bad guy, right? So the very first attempt to address this, those carriers went out and each of them picked a single vendor, TransUnion, First Orion, TNS. And they worked with those vendors to implement what I would call a phase one solution. Those three vendors today cooperate. They deliver a solution that the industry generically calls out of band, all right? I'll contrast that phase one out of band with what we're doing with BCID. First way of contrasting it is openness. So by definition, that first phase was limited to 3 vendors. And these are great vendors working very hard to deliver a quality product. But they're just 3 vendors. We heard from the previous panel, 35 million enterprises. Those enterprises are served by approximately 4,000 service providers. 3 vendors cannot possibly solve this problem. So they're great participants. They were a great first step. They helped us to establish all sorts of valuable metrics of what happens if you deliver verified identity, but insufficient. BCID was born to address the issue of openness and sufficiency. In order to make this work, to solve the problem, everybody's got to participate. Every service provider, every technology vendor has to engage in order to onboard, vet, and verify 35 million enterprises. Now, if we achieve this, we're going to dramatically improve commerce across the entire economy. This is a worthy goal, but we all have to be involved. So BCID Phase 2 is open, transparent, entirely standardized, and it exists to let everybody participate on equal terms and conditions. So that's the openness difference. The other difference is there's some underlying technology difference. The first phase, out of band, transported the verified identity separate from the call itself, right? So it starts together at the enterprise, but then when the call is originated, the verified identity goes one path, the call goes another. That introduces 2 challenges. There is some security risk to that, because how do you know those 2 are actually connected? Let's not worry about that so much. The bigger problem is reliability. How do you get those 2 paths to marry up in time when the call is connected? The truth is, it's very difficult. So that means a lot of the calls don't get branded because you can't marry up the 2 paths with high reliability. Now, All right, so why would you do that? You do it because you can implement out of band without involving the originating service provider. You can actually go sell right to the enterprise. And you can implement it without end-to-end SIP. Those are two advantages. BCID, in contrast, chose a path of combining the verified identity with the call using stir-shaken. So every service provider has already spent the money to implement stir-shaken. What BCID has done is said, we'll give you the tools to add verified identity right into that shaken passport. It goes with the call, reaches the terminating end. So BCID, super secure, super reliable. But the originating service provider has to be involved, and you need end-to-end SIP. All right? So these two solutions actually complement each other in some interesting ways. I think what we'll find is that this is just my crystal ball, okay? The existing out-of-band vendors will figure out how to leverage BCID. They'll be part of the broader ecosystem, along with everyone. Now, BCID focuses a lot on the service provider. And today we get to talk to one of those service providers. So I will transition now to Melissa and talk to us a little bit about why is Twilio interested in BCID?
Great. As Doug has mentioned, this has been a very long journey. I was hired 6 years ago at Twilio to shepherd Twilio into becoming a VoIP operator, getting their own numbering ranges, and in taking that responsibility and next step into being an early stir-shaken adopter and generally trying to build on being a trusted leader. Doug and I spoke in 2020 about what the next phase of stir-shaken could be back then. And I became excited because, again, we've all invested money, right, in this, and we want to produce more value for our customers, right? And that's what is so important, and we want to play that role. We have invested a lot of money in KYC, and we believe we can play that part. And, Twilio was built in a way to, to obfuscate complexity, right? For enterprises that don't understand telecom. So that's what we want to do. We want to scale quickly and fast, but of course responsibly. So we did that pilot back in 2020 with that first known RCD call involving our customer. It was a critical event management platform. And it worked beautifully. It went to the T-Mobile handset, and we were very excited because that was one step and many more to come. But again, we had to build on these baby steps because this is incredibly complicated, right? To do this at scale, to involve all of the different participants from the originators, the vetters, the OSPs, and the TSPs. And we just wanted to be a part of history because we saw the long-term prospects of what this could be. And now, last week we saw the FCC just dropped FMPRMs about caller ID and transiting that to the end user since, I think as consumers, the green check mark doesn't mean much. It tells you it's not spoofed, but that's it, right? It doesn't tell you who the identity is and what they're conveying. And that's this next step we need to go in the journey. And so this is why we're speaking on this. And this is still the early stages, and yet we think we've come a long ways. And we're very excited about what's to come and playing that role and adding value for customers so that we can obfuscate complexity for them.
I guess one other aspect of it that stands out for me is that for you as a service provider, you've spent an enormous amount of time and money building your relationship with your enterprises of all sizes. from my perspective, it doesn't really make any sense for anyone to deliver this solution to your enterprises other than you. Now, if you refuse to do it, well, then people will try to come and take those enterprises from you, right? But prior to BCID, we just didn't have any momentum around involving the service provider. I think it's a key step to scaling here.
Exactly, and the VoIP journey involves a lot of investment into building those IP connections with TSPs, and that's what we've done. So it can be done. I know even 5-10 years ago, it's daunting. Yes, it's a lot. But again, you have to do baby steps, and forward momentum is everything. And therefore, we feel like we're in a good place. Now we're finally building on Stir Shaken. And, it never was the silver bullet. We all know the story there, and this is just building on it. And there's many other service providers out there that want to participate, have invested as well, and we can, produce results and have this RCD journey come to life.
Right.
And, we want to scale. That's another thing, right? We have hundreds of thousands of businesses. Many of them just want to park it all with one service provider. They don't want to be told the go here and there. It's just add steps in the journey, and some of them are very complicated, businesses that, it would take a lot of time to build that. So we've just taken that feedback and we've wanted to produce the value for them and do what we thought was the right thing for the future. And that's, BCID. And, like what Doug said, there's many participants in this ecosystem, and everyone can play a role, and it should. Competition is great. We just, we all have to raise the bar. That's
right.
We are taking full responsibility for that, as we should. That was what we had to do years ago to correct a number of things that were going on in our ecosystem and restoring trust. This is a critical time, and we're there. We have to continue on.
So as I looked up in AI, right, and I use all three of them because I pit them against each other competitively to see if they all come up with the same answer. And basically it said there are 2.9 billion calls a day in the US. It's really hard, and all of them had a similar answer on the number of enterprise calls that makes up, that's very complicated. AI can't even figure out how many of that 2.9 billion daily calls are coming from enterprises, but we do know that it's large. We do know that there are 35 million enterprises that would love to at least have an opportunity to share more information with the hopes of increasing that 80% don't answer their call stat in order to connect with their consumer more directly.
Right.
So I guess, Doug, can you just go at a little bit more in terms of how we're solving this, or how we actually, 19 million is a lot, but if you're looking at 2.9 billion daily, how do we actually scale? And is BCID capable of scaling to the level that we can actually make a dent in changing that customer experience with enterprises?
Okay, so we actually have already covered this issue of how does it scale. The scaling from BCID perspective is 35 million enterprises served by 3,000 or 4,000 service providers, terminating traffic to 3 national mobile operators. Now, of course, not all consumers have just a mobile phone on AT&T, Verizon, T-Mobile, right? We know that. But there's this logical progression. Huge number of enterprises, much smaller number of service providers to a smaller number of termination points that really address the problem. That's how we scale. We're not talking about selling one enterprise at a time. As Melissa just said, they have hundreds of thousands of enterprises. Twilio is going to build a solution and offer it to hundreds of thousands of enterprises. That is how it scales. That's the essential difference of an ecosystem approach versus a vendor approach, where the vendor tries to sell a solution to an enterprise.
And then, Melissa, can you talk a little bit about what it's been like to be an authorized partner?
Yeah, some of our customers have use cases, like retailers have deliveries, right, that they need to make, and they're critical to make. And if that end consumer doesn't answer the phone, that's lost money. That's rescheduling a delivery. That's one of the more common use cases we've seen with our customers, and it's growing, right? There's another critical, probably healthcare management that is now engaged in braided calling so that they could have more engagement with the end users who have critical illnesses and need more guidance and help. And that's I'm really proud to serve a use case like that, because that is very meaningful beyond just the retail aspect of it. So and then with BCID, early stages, right? We are, evolving what we can do, and our customers have provided feedback. And one of them being the flexible call reasons that we wouldn't have thought of until a customer told us they needed this, and we thought about it and said that makes sense, and it should be served, after we vetted and understood what their use case was. So that is great. Feedback loops are super important. And that's what makes this exciting. We've had Verizon recently sign. A lot of our enterprises are happy because they see the progress, and they don't understand the telecom ecosystem. They don't have to. They don't need to. That's our job to take that on and, simplify it and give them, value. And I'm just really proud of that. And I know there's more to come, but I think we're on a really good step. And yeah, with the FCC, there's going to be a lot of attention now on building the next step on top of Stir Shaken, because it's not going away. We've invested in it. So yeah, I think we're in a good footing. Yeah.
And I think also just going back to the whole ecosystem and being able to have that circular loop of communication and feedback. It isn't just about a single solution coming to market. It's about an ecosystem that sometimes needs to be nimble and respond to things that were not thought of, even in the 5 years that's taken us to get to this point, in terms of what comes next. And so, Doug, what do you see, I guess, in terms of from the platform and the technical aspect? What was the biggest success coming out of this first year? And sort of where do we go from here? I know we're getting some use case feedback, but anything on the platform itself?
Sure. So I think the big story is it all worked. If you've participated in BCID, you know that it's an architecture. It's intentionally complicated because we want to allow everyone to participate. So you had to define multiple roles that participants could play. Well, that makes it more complicated, right? But it's what allows it to scale. So we defined onboarding agents, vetting agents, signing agents, OSPs, TSPs, and there are legal agreements that go with all of those, and there are APIs for exchanging data with all of those. And the magic of the first year is it worked flawlessly. That's just, well, we had plenty of time to work on it, right? Yeah. We started this in 2020. So, luckily it didn't exactly sneak up on us. But that's a great story. The other thing that I think is critical is it really became clear why the CTIA is important to this. The CTIA is the administrator of this ecosystem. There are already 90 participants, right? Remember, phase one, we talked about OOB, 3 participants. Phase 2, we're literally just getting started. We already have 90 companies that have signed contractual obligations to fulfill their roles. That's, getting a lawyer to agree to anything is almost impossible, right? CTIA's gotten these agreements to the point that 90 entities have signed the onboarding agent agreement, the vetting agent agreement, the signing agent agreement, the TSP agreement, the OSP agreement. And CTIA gets us all together regularly so that we talk about key learning and we share that and we respond. You can't have an ecosystem without a coordinator, and CTIA has really crushed it. I hope next year we have a lot of activity that talks about the overlap between trusted identity in messaging and trusted identity in voice. There's some really fruitful opportunity here that look forward to exploring.
Yeah, I see a really big theme across multiple verticals and industries, and ours is no different. And it's really about restoring trust. And I do hope that we're able to continue to scale this at massive numbers to restore trust in voice calls. We have 41 seconds left. Lightning round. What do you want to leave the audience with today, Melissa? What do you want them to remember most about this session?
We're evolving. Voice has to evolve with the times, and they're moving fast. And we are taking responsibility and raising the bar. And others are too, and they should. So that's what I would leave this with. And let us participate in what we have spent years and years investing in, and really with the end goal of helping our customers with their journeys and adding value.
Doug?
I'd say anybody in this room, if you're involved in the voice channel or you're involved in identity management, get involved with BCID.
And shameless plug, the way to do that is brandedcallingid.com. You can see all of our partners listed there, all the things that we do. You can reach out to us directly there. We have live people on the other end who are happy to take your questions, inquiries, introduce you to an authorized partner if that's what you'd like, or to know more about the program. So thank you so much for being with us today. Appreciate it.